Happy Whiskey Wins, everybody. I am Rashawn Hall, aka Bartime Stories, and this is another episode of Women Whiskey via the Whiskey Lifestyle. So this week we have two guests. So a duo, a podcasting friendship duo. So I want to bring them in here. It's Denaya and Kapri from Palate Podcast. Ladies, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Hello.
Yes, you're welcome. Denaya.
Yes,
you're welcome.
Denaya, damn it. I did it right. Did I say it right? Did I say it wrong? I said it Denaya. Denaya.
Okay.
Apologies. My bad. We just talked about that. So apologies. So yes, intro. Why don't you guys introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about each of you individually, and then we can talk a little bit more about what you all do in your amazing podcast.
Okay. Well, I am Denaya Jones.
Yes.
Denaya Jones-Reid. Look, hello.
She's married.
I'm Denaya. Newly married. Been in hospitality 11 years now. I am currently a general manager, managing partner for a retail company called Steelbox. We are an online spirits company, and we specialize in providing access to more limited edition, very craft, very independent brand spirits. And I also have a company called Distilled. It's a mobile cocktail company, also spirits education. And I am also a board member of Chocolate City's Best. Yeah. I am first Chocolate City's Best winner, 2018.
Ascot Award judge.
Ascot, there we go. This is why this is my
run the resume. Yes, run the resume.
Member of the Ascot Council of Tasters.
What'd you say?
I said, yes, run the resume, please. Run it down.
I was about to say I do a lot of shit because I tend to forget. So I just sum it up into I do a lot of shit in the liquor business. But yes, that is essentially the list, basically. You can find all of this at dstill.co. Hello.
Yes.
And good ma'am.
Yes. I'm Kapri Robinson, y'all. Also based here in DC. I am a bartender at Allegory inside the Eaton Hotel. I am the founder of Chocolate City's Best, which she was talking about, which is a nonprofit geared towards putting Black and Brown people at the forefront of the industry, connecting them to network opportunities, educational opportunities, job opportunities. And then I've been crowned lots of different champion names. I do a lot of competitions myself.
I was about to say, she do this cocktail competition.
I love cocktail competitions. The most notable one was in 2017. I won Cocktail Queen of DC. I was Eater's New Guard in 2021. I am a professional teacher, I should say now. I do seminars all over the nation. I also teach here. We both teach classes. And then we do Soul Palate. You know what I'm saying? Soul Palate is our podcast where we bring ourselves, beautiful Black women, and bring other Black and Brown folks to taste on spirits and normalize our own palates and, kind of like decentralize that we are tasting wrong. We're always tasting right. You're always tasting what you're supposed to be tasting. So that's why we got into this. And D works at Steelbox. And they get a lot of whiskey. So we drink a lot of whiskey.
So we drink a ton of whiskey. We've definitely been doing a lot of different deep dives into the whiskey category.
Yes.
Just because we have such an abundance and array of whether it's different distilleries to try from different regions, different categories, so on and so forth. So there's a lot in the whiskey land that we kind of navigate through the podcast. So it's fun.
Yes. And we like to talk about the world, ourselves, life, growth, manifestations.
Yeah. Where we're eating, where we're drinking, where we're traveling.
Where we're traveling for sure.
So yes.
And some shit.
So what inspired the podcast? How obviously you guys are friends. What said, let's take this conversation and let's bring this to the podcast platform.
So idea-wise, we used to do a thing with Chocolate City's Best called Stick Talk. And Stick Talk, we had one person on called Janine Copeland, and she came on and she tasted wine. And she was talking about how when she went to different wine tastings, of course, being one of the only Black people in the room, the type of things that she would taste, she would be told it was wrong.
Yeah, no one could relate to the words, like the verbiage she was putting to what she was experiencing.
And because of that, the reason that happens is because you're tasting and smelling, it triggers memories. And as Black and Brown people, we're probably having a different experience than our counterparts. white folk. And so, and not even just that, but the way that the world of wine and the way that the world of spirits has come together educationally, there's a type of people that put that together, led it, and made it for a certain group of folks.
Criteria has been set in Europe, essentially, and then adapted in the U.S. So inevitably, everything that's attached to it is going to come from a very Eurocentric lens.
And because of that, it's leaving out a lot of perspectives that we have. So she was talking about how she was working on, was working on talking about different tasting notes that people can actually relate to. Because the ones that at the classes, she was like, I have never had that experience. I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't go to a farm all the time, so I don't know what barn hay smells like. I haven't licked limestone before. These type of things sometimes just people don't know. So when I heard that while I was doing this interview with her, I was like, damn, I had never thought about that. And then since then, my brain kept racking man, I want to either start making a tasting grid where it's making I don't know, I don't know what I was going to call it, but a different tasting grid that you would see, because wine has its own type of taste grid, and whiskey, and spirits do too. And then I was just I came to D, I also came to my friend Mike, and I was like, I just want to do, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about our different perspectives. I want people to feel more comfortable tasting what they're tasting. And, something happened with another company, and they were asking me about podcast ideas, and I brought it to them, and Dee was like, this would be a dope podcast idea. And she's a podcast girl.
I was gonna say, I'm a podcast girl. So I love podcasts. I love conversation. Right. I love people engaging in interesting conversation. I love talking about spirits, period. So I was like, oh yes, please, and thank you.
Right, absolutely. Honestly, structural wise and different things like that, Dee has been the mastermind a lot about how we want to lay things out, how it's supposed to, be given to the world. And it's been great to have her. I was like, I just want to talk about this. She's like, we got this, and put it together. And since then, it's just been, a roller coaster. We've been doing, this is really cool to have our first interview.
Yeah. Yes, you're our first interview.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be hitting a year in a couple weeks.
In August.
3 weeks. So
around my birthday, we'll be hitting a year. We'll do our first live recording in a week and some change.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's how
Congrats on that 1 year anniversary. And what I loved about the podcast, and everyone should definitely check it out, is that it is one of the things, as someone who also loves podcasts, and I did my own, they're great spirit podcasts, but they go down that rabbit hole by just speaking about spirit education, which is important. But there are very few that do a really good cross section of that pop culture of, talking about issues that are going on outside of hospitality, as well as in having a drink. Because I feel like typically that is where you have the best conversations, is with a glass of whiskey or a glass of wine. So it is, I love that combination of those two worlds that you guys bring to every episode.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Comment.
What we didn't want to do was isolate listeners who were non-industry. There's a lot of lingo we could go back and forth with that is very focused in hospitality or whatever, but there's already a lot of that. And that's really not how we genuinely interact anyway. So it was really just a matter of how do we really just sit there and be ourselves and talk shit. But at the same time, we both care about education, also educating people and educating ourselves at the same time. Because a lot of times we're tasting something that I've never tasted, or learning further into a category, into a style of production or whatever. So always just making sure that there's a takeaway while we still talk our shit.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's a perfect segue. In this year, what have you all learned, both about, maybe each of you can answer this, both about a spirit or a whiskey that you found interesting or new, as well as just yourselves and putting yourselves out there and creating this space for Black and brown folks?
That's a good question.
I'm sorry, what was the question again? I couldn't hear.
Again, it was cool.
Yeah, what is it that in this year of doing this, what is something that you've learned about a whiskey or a spirit that you found interesting or new? And then what is something that you've learned about yourself in this year of doing this and kind of exposing yourself to the world in a different way?
Okay, absolutely. Something new that I've learned about whiskey. Well, recently we did a tasting of a blend of a whiskey that was a bourbon whiskey and a rye whiskey. And I don't know if I knew that could be a possible thing. And I also don't know if that's just called American whiskey to this day. So that was very, very new for me. Yeah, it was like, what is it? Is it a bourbon or is it a rye? And then
both.
And it's technically both. So that was pretty cool because I had never came across something like that before. That was in our.
That was the 4-gate one?
I think that was the 4-gate one.
Because there was definitely a rye bourbon blend with a special finish in that lineup.
Right. So I think
I have another one too.
So I think that was the 4-gate lineup. And then something that I learned about myself about this is working on time management. No, but also time management.
So real.
Upkeep. Like we've had conversations about how much this needs to be, a little bit bigger part of our lives, job-wise, for us to really get this off the ground. My passion towards spirits has ignited more. I was telling Dee on one of the episodes that this has now shown me a different appreciation for whiskey than it was, because before we were doing this, I had stopped drinking whiskey. Like you can tell, I was like, I don't need to drink no whiskey outside of work. Like all I need is tequila and some gin or some vodka or some pisco or some shot, anything like
whiskey essentially.
Okay.
Brandy. And I was like, I'm okay with just that. But doing the tastings just really showed how much I love the vast world of whiskey because of the way that they finish things, the water that they use, the type of grain mash that they use, where they're aging, all these things come into play.
The water source,
and just
choice,
everything. Where you're getting your barrels, all that stuff. It really, how you distill, type of still that you're using,
how you ferment, even,
and how you even ferment. So it's like
there's just so
when we get to think about these types of things, we are literally going through every bottle and seeing the magic put together and the taste buds and the aromas. And for us, you know what I also learned? That I can actually dig into my memory, because a lot of these things have been
a good one.
Bringing up childhood things that I really don't think about my childhood a lot. I don't know if I'm
same.
I don't think about it a lot. So I think
adulting takes up enough.
Yeah. And because I do that, I feel like I lose a lot of memories. Like I have friends that are like, I remember when. I'm like, my memory is not that great. But when I start tasting, I feel that I can see so many different memories from back in the day. So that also worked out too.
Ooh. What did I learn? But you did, actually. You answered in depth. It was great.
Awesome.
The first one, what did I learn about a spirit or whiskey?
I know that was hard.
Or something like that. What have I learned? I learned that I have a lot of stored whiskey. That's what I learned.
That's a bonus. That's a good thing to learn.
When I try to find a theme for an episode, like for the bottles or whatever, I realized just how much stuff there is to go through.
You guys have like 300 bottles.
I have more than that.
Yeah.
Baby, I've been storing bottles for 4 years. Just storing like a goddamn squirrel, like with nuts. So I realized that I need to probably start actually pouring some of these. So this has been great in that regard. But I just learned kind of similar to what she said, but just that it was further confirmation of just how much nuance there is to whiskey.
Yes.
And it just really deepened my love for whiskey. That was kind of the first, I feel like tequila was kind of the first spirit I like really enjoyed and like knew that I liked it as a category, like from young, but bourbon was like the first spirit I fell in love with. And that just kind of snowballed into a love for just whiskey as a category. I pretty much can find at least one bottle under every category that I like pull as a go-to. So I just love whiskey, period, whether it has an E or no E. And I actually learned that there are more vodkas out here that I can enjoy than I thought. Just to take more whiskey. I did learn that vodka is really not so bad.
It's not that bad.
All about the production and where it's coming from.
You gotta stay away from the big boys.
Again, the nuance there. So I did learn that vodka is really not that bad, and I can enjoy it outside of a dirty martini. Yes. So, in terms of what I learned about myself, is that I really enjoy the process of like building this podcast. I had to get back into my like camera work bag, video editing bag, and all of that type of stuff, which I haven't touched in a long time because I haven't had to. So I've definitely learned just in terms of capabilities that I am very capable. And I have learned that like the importance of treating your side hustles like your job, like your main job, has been a major lesson for me so far. Because otherwise, it's not going to be the way you want it. Unless you have a team to employ to do such a thing. But obviously, if that was the case, that would still work.
No. We know this all too well. So you guys are mentioning time management and the idea of a side hustle being your main hustle. But how do you find that balance between you are both working full-time jobs? Obviously, you want to have lives where you spend time with your friends and your family, et cetera, and do this. How do you strike that balance?
I would say
it helps that it's an outlet for us.
Right.
And that we enjoy each other anyway. And that because we work very different schedules, like she works at night, I work very early in the day, and I'm usually done by like 3-4 o'clock and ready to nod off by 8. So we had to work around when we're both off and when we could both dedicate a day at least to do it. And that's at least. But also we want to be able to see each other at least once a week. So this is the perfect excuse to do it. And then we do our hood rat stuff with our hood rat friends after.
I think also, because in the beginning of this, it was like, oh, what day can you do it? What day can you do it? It was like a mixed up schedule. And we were like, look, we're going to have to get consistent on this. Yeah. If this is not pull through. And like she said, all those things of why we love to be around each other and talk anyways, just helps us to be like, okay, let's go ahead and get an episode out. Yeah. And also just, we see the same vision for this. Still working to get on our vision board, but we see a lot of the same vision. So because of that, we ignite each other's passion. At least she helps me keep my passion going for this. I love what we're doing, and to keep constantly hearing that people are listening and, involved and learning and loving it. And, we're doing something unique, which is great because podcasts is like when, do they give
a dime a dozen? Everyone has a podcast. So how do you kind of figure out your space and your lane?
Exactly.
In this like huge ass world now of podcasts.
But when you want to do it, you'll prioritize it. And that's what we're doing. And it's just about prioritizing more, coming in the future. Yeah.
Okay. And when I reached out to you guys, I said the name of the series is Women in Whiskey. And when we started it, we really wanted to, being cis heterosexual men of color, we wanted to highlight women who are in this industry. However, as we've talked to more and more women, there is a certain pejorative, there's a certain weirdness about that title. But what do you all think of that phrase when you hear it? Or I'm sure, whether it's been brands that have started to market more towards women, like they're a different consumer than men. What do you think of that Women in Whiskey moniker?
Women in Whiskey.
Be honest, no, please.
Full of whiskey. Just a dance and just Women in Whiskey.
It just sounds like okay, so Women in Whiskey right now, and I guess rightfully so. It's very vague.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll take it. Technically, I am a woman in the whiskey business.
World,
our major sellers, I mean, we sell, our base is probably 85 to 90 at least percent of whiskey consumers, whether it's bourbon, rye, single malt, whatever. So I am in the whiskey business. I am in whiskey distilleries all year. At some point I will be a blender, if not distiller. So, and that first one will probably be whiskey. So I mean,
it's true.
It's an umbrella. Yeah. And I'm happy that it exists as a moniker because at first it wasn't. Like I've been, in terms of the beverage side of hospitality, I have been in this space since 2014. Never heard a reference to women in whiskey at all up until like 2 years ago. Right. So I'll take it. Progress is progress. And it's a place to kind of start from. So, hey, I'll take it where I can get it. Happy to be a woman in whiskey.
What you think?
Okay, well, fair enough. So you say you have a live show coming up. Tell us a little bit about that first live show. What's the plan?
Yeah.
What's the reveal?
Yes. So shout out to Taylor the Cocktail for allowing us to do this. I didn't know if it was a possible thing, but we just put it out into the world. So
I didn't know it was an option. First of all, Kapri had brought it to my attention that it was even an option to do. So
I'm so glad
it's straight into the street.
But they have seminars at Tales of the Cocktail, which is a conference for cocktail enthusiasts, cocktail professionals, beverage professionals of all lives and kind. You can come down to New Orleans for a week and interact with brands, have seminars, education, and eat and drink in New Orleans because that's what you always want to do.
Yes.
But when the seminars were open, we were putting one in for Chocolate State's Best, and I was like, what do you think about doing a live recording down there? Like, how do you feel? Like, let's set this up. So I got on a call with Tails. They said, you can absolutely do it. So we just put it in seminar format, but also going to be just like what we're doing.
Yeah.
And what we're going to be talking about at this live podcast recording. It's called From Booked and Busy to Calm and Compensated. And what that means is for the past, forever, especially in the world of spirits and especially during COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we found
during COVID
that, as a bartender, you lost your job or, she still had Stillbox, but stuff was still so very different that the way that you could start making money was doing things online. So you were getting like lots of calls for doing like one-off things, but all of a sudden I was like overworking myself to pay rent, to do these things. And that kind of never stopped, even when things started to open back up. And I was like, looking at her, I think it was one Black History Month. And I remember speaking to a lot of Black folk, and I was like, how are y'all feeling? And it was because we were showing up for all these brands wanted to showcase us. All these people, we were putting on our own things for Chocolate City's Best. People wanted us to be for these types of educational things.
And it was like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all of the everything around those tragedies happening. Of course, every brand, every company is looking at a way
put a black face. Exactly. Put a black face up. So there was one where Black people were working hella hard, making bread, but working hella hard. And being overworked and being tired. People were ending up in hospitals because they were stressed out. Like there was so much
between
going on.
The anxiety of COVID, but also the anxiety of like feeling like you're obligated to take everything that was being offered to just because you don't know what your money's gonna look like in the next month.
Right.
Like 2 weeks.
And also just being Black.
Just being Black. Period.
Right.
So all of the anxieties that come with all the things
came with one thing they all came with was short-term money solutions. Nothing was a long-term thing. Nothing was I could do this for the next 6 months, next year, next 2 years. It was, okay, here's your one time, here's your 500, here's your whatever here. And you had to keep getting these jobs to make it. So booked and busy used to be a thing, right? Oh, I'm booked and busy. It's like, what is the booking for real? And is it a long-term thing? We want to be calm and compensated. We want to be paid well and
be busy doing what we want to do, not what we feel like we have to do just to survive.
And for the busyness, not to feel busy, for it to feel more of like, this is the way I'm living my life.
Exactly.
This is naturally what I'm doing without it feeling like, oh, I gotta wake up and do this. Oh, I'm stressing out. Oh,
once I'm done with this, I can get back to life. Like,
no. It needs to all be one where you're chilling out, you're doing what you love, the way you want to,
and you're getting paid.
And you're getting paid the right way. So it's going to be a lot of conversation about going to the people that employ you or want to employ you and actually having a real conversation of how longevity works here and what does this look like for the future and if you need to stay or go.
Pretty much.
Awesome. So,
Okay. Well, that's awesome. I will be down at Tail, so I will make sure that I add that to my schedule. So and I'm also down in DC a lot, so I will definitely make sure that I will come to the allegory. I know we talked about a half an hour, so we're going to keep this brief. Just a few more questions. We always ask a couple of fun questions at the end. So if both of you can answer, drink with one person, dead or alive, who would it be? Have a whiskey. Who would it be and why?
Oh, that's so good. Do you know yours?
I think it would be my grandmother. She, on my dad's side, she passed away before I was born. She saw me in my mom's stomach, but passed away right before I was born. And she was a very big influence on my father. And he talks about her all the time, Barbara Dream. And I say that because I feel like she tapped into spiritualness in the world that my dad didn't get enough of, but he talks about, her transforming herself and the types of things that she would do around the house. And so I would want to talk to her about like how she grew up in this world and, what was her influences and, what did she learn as she was growing. So that's somebody that I would want to talk to.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one. Okay. Dead or alive. I have one for dead and for life. So anyone that I have a sip of whiskey with who has passed on is actually my aunt, Catherine. Mm. And that's because I have a lot of very early on childhood memories, like spending a ton of time with her. Mm. And then just abruptly she had passed. And so that would be one like long conversation I would love to sit and have with her over some whiskey. And then alive, Rihanna.
Okay, yes, Rihanna.
I really want to sit and drink and have a little shruggy shot with Riri.
Yeah, Rihanna and Cardi B.
Post baby, because I want to be the baby. So, and Cardi B.
Is the baby?
But yes, Rihanna. Yes. Mm-hmm. They had a boy.
Oh, you know what? I knew that.
Yes, okay. Those were, and I'm going to say this on the record. I've said this in close circles of friends. Somebody once asked me, who is one celebrity a spirit that I would co-sign, and just off that. If Rihanna did a rum from Barbados, 10 out of 10. The marketing, Barbados rum, just amazing in and of itself.
Right. I will take some 50 rum.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm here.
So just put it out there. I've said it on the record. So if it happens, people can go back to this interview. But ladies, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I've been a fan of both of you on social as well as on the other podcast. So thank you so much. Just lastly, let people know where they can find you all online and and obviously to give us a follow to the podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you can follow me personally at Destilled, DEESTILLED. Also, you can follow us at Soul Palate Pod, and that is palate as in your tongue, not the wood square. So that's SOULPALATE pod, POD. So Soul Palate Pod. Also, there's Chocolate City's Best, Chocolate.Cities I know. I was like CITYS.
Yes.
.best.
Yes.
So chocolate.cities.best on Instagram and Kapri.
Yes. And you can follow me at Kapri, KAPRI.possible. And through our personal pages, you can find all of these other pages too. Yeah. You can go to chocolatecitiesbest.com to see what we're doing there. And then also destill.co.
Yes. You can find everything Soul Palate on my website as well. It has its own whole page.
Soul Palate is also on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on Google Podcasts and YouTube and Buzzsprout. So yeah.
Listen.
Love it. Well, ladies, thank you so much for doing this.
Right.
I could have kept talking.
Gay.
Yes, like and time. Absolutely.
Sorry.
Well, ladies, thank you so much. No, I love it.
Right, thanks for having us, Rashawn.
We had a great time. Cheers. What are you drinking? This is whiskey.
Are you not sipping?
I was drinking iced coffee, but you have inspired me. I'm about to hit the bar, which is my little bar.
We're sipping some Westward Stoutcast.
Okay. Oh, see, there you go. Oh, look at that. That's a Westward. That's a plug right there. So send a check.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Period. Bye.